Today is the 25th of May 2023 and we're heading from one island mountain to another, the Brandberg. This is a serious lump of rock with the highest point at 2,500 metres above sea level. On aerial photography it looks a bit like an island itself. There are desert elephants and maybe also rhino in this area, so we'll be keeping our eyes peeled to spot anything. It's a shortish trip, 143 kilometres, and we're semi-camping here in a glamping tent. I'll show more of that later. The road is, well, the road, unsealed and fine. Stick to 80 kilometres an hour and you're fine on these roads. The scenery has changed a bit from the flat country around the Spitzkoppe to this more undulating country with these conical hills. The roadside signs are hopeful for seeing elephant. Hopefully they're not still hiding under the bushes. Here is a compulsory scenery montage. In the distance we see the fog lurking. It's rolled inland quite a way today. It tries to get between us and the Brandberg in the distance, but we didn't get troubled by it much. As you get closer to the Brandberg, its true size becomes apparent. There are these hills of broken rock reminiscent of Western Australia. We finally get to the turn-off for our digs for the night, Brandberg White Lady Lodge. The White Lady bit of the name comes from the famous rock art picture nearby. It's on the banks of the Ubud River, which braids its way through the landscape. We actually have to cross a watercourse to get to our site. When the river is flowing, this branch must be all of 10 centimetres deep. This is our home for the afternoon and night, and it's just on lunchtime when we get here. It's cool and comfy, and we can fight over who gets the big bed. We also have our own toilet and shower. The view is nice as well. We also have an information sheet about what to do if elephants come through the camp. We read it carefully. Cheese and bickies for lunch with a stony ginger beer for Angela and a Savannah dry cider for me with some biltong for afters. Good or what? I spot these birds in the trees across the watercourse. I found they were called go-away birds. Whenever I tried to get close for a picture, that's what they did, went away. So here's the best picture I could manage. Hardly BBC wildlife stuff. As usual, the boss calls out helpful advice. She's in her element here. I decided to take a short stroll to the Ubud River itself, which is just behind our tent. There is elephant poo here, but it's not fresh. Again, the scenery and the light turn on a show. As the sun sets, we head down to the bar for drinky poos. That's a white wine for Angela and a Malawi shandy for me. The walk down is a bit cautious, as if there are elephants about they often move around at night. When you check in, you have to hand over any fruit you have, especially oranges, for them to store at reception. If the elephants smell fruit in your car, they'll just peel it open to get at it. Hiding it in your fridge doesn't fool them. They can still smell it. Dinner is, as in many of these remote lodges, basic but good. I can't remember what I had. If you want 5-star cuisine, then you need the expensive lodges where they can afford to ship in and stock a wide range of food. This is comfortable and cheerful and suits us to the ground. We make it back to the tent in the dark in one piece. Sort of relieved, but in a way it would have been nice to see or hear elephants off in the distance. Maybe tomorrow, we'll have to see. Up for breakfast in the morning. Still no elephants, but the 2 rescue meerkats at reception. Angela took this picture of their reflections in the windows. They look like ghosts. Today is a longer drive, 360 kilometres to the Skeleton Coast and Terrace Bay. Evidently not on the tourist route. It's been a bucket list item for me for decades, but the people that organised our itinerary were surprised I wanted to go there. So it's out of the clear, mild weather we're in and back to the cold, foggy coast and the Namib desert again. Not much to show of the first part of the trip except to say the scenery can change remarkably at one bend or crest in the road. We stopped for some lunch by the side of the road and admire the huge flat-top hills and the lack of any vegetation. As we head west, the landscape gets drier and drier until it does a great Mars impression. To my delight, we find a patch of these weltwichia plants. There is one in the foreground here. These are arid area specialists, and it looks like some alien life form. They're quite large, perhaps 2 metres across, and have just 2 leaves that grow and grow as the wind shreds the ends. These ones had seed cones. I have been looking for these. This is a Weltwichia mirabilis. Totally weird plant. Has only 2 leaves. It just keep growing and growing and growing and growing. And the wind sort of like tears them to tatters at the end. It's a bit hard to tell from the scale. This one is about 2 metres across. And where they live is quite inhospitable. These are just on this stony plain. So one over there, one over there, one over there near the car, another big one over there. And on the other side of the road there's about 10 or 15 there as well. Eventually we get to the eastern gate of the park. There's another gate to the south on the road up from Spitzkoppe. We get our permits. The radio's down, so we have to pay cash. A bit more out of our cash reserve, which is not huge, as you can't draw out much from ATMs in Namibia and there's a daily limit. The landscape changes again and we're distinctly back in the Namib. The wind starts to get up and I'm getting worried. Our insurance doesn't cover for sandstorm damage and the car is getting pelted. Eventually we arrive at Terrace Bay. Like Cape Cross, it's sparse and windswept. A few trees and bushes here and there. We book in at a small shop inside an old warehouse. There's not much here apart from the resort. Yes, this is a resort. Some old warehouses and some rusty sheds, and it's cold and windy. We find our cabin and it's only half made up. It's only one towel. We think whoever was doing it got called away to do something else and didn't get back into it. The main clientele here are fishermen. Like at Spitzkoppe, this is rich cob or Mulloway territory, only better. I venture out into the cold and wind and the no swimming signs. Who'd want to? This is as far north as you can get along here unless you get a permit to go up to Moe Bay, 80 kilometres to the north. There's nothing there but a very expensive resort. It would certainly be exclusive. It is so windy I have to stand in the lee of the building to make this video. This is the view basically from the front veranda of our little chalet thing. It is rough, and the other thing that amazes me from a fishing perspective is the rip along the beach from left to right. It's just honking along. This is places, well, the fishing spot's a bit further down, and the fishing up to my right there is famous for mulloway off the beach. And when the wind dies down, if the wind dies down, I'll go down the beach and have a bit of a look. As the sun begins to set and the cold wind really begins to bite, we head off up the hill to dinner. Remember, this is supposed to be the tropics. We're at Karatha latitudes here, but it feels like Cape Arid on a bad day. One of the reasons I just had to come here. The view from the restaurant window is quite nice. The restaurant bar is as basic as befits a fishing camp. There are messages written all over the walls and the ceiling from people all over the world. South Africans, Namibians, Dutch, Canadians, Australians, you name it. We didn't write anything, we couldn't find a space. Angela loved it. The food once again was basic, inexpensive and great. We're officially in the middle of nowhere, and as basic as it is, you have the luxury of friendly people, some decent food and a drink to see you off to bed out of the wind. Tomorrow we head back inland to go further north. We'll pass an even more basic resort than this one, the one that piqued my interest in this whole area many years ago. But for now we'll fight our way to our shack through the wind, and you have to wait for the next episode. Thanks.